Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming today to Boiler Social. I'm John O'Malley. I work in Purdue Polytechnic's marketing communication team. My role in our team is, I'm kind of the generalist. I'm the jack of all trades and master of some. I'm a writer and editor. I do just a little bit of graphics, but we have Peyton, our graphic designer. I am our videographer. There's no one else on our team that does that. And I also manage our social media, which is how I've come to volunteer to do this for you today. When we met last month, I offered to just show a demo of putting together a video for social media, including some optimization of the video and then resizing it to fit on some of the different platforms, specifically Instagram. But let me first show you an example of the kind of video that I'm going to show you, that I'm going to put together for you today. This is an example video that I made about a month ago.
The professors we have are so great. They're always so open and interested in all of the things that you're doing and making sure that they're mentoring you throughout the different processes, which is great for me because I didn't even know about user experience before I came to Purdue. Another thing is getting the opportunity to work with companies every semester in the Experience Studio. Having real life work experience really helps with how you learn within the process. Take advantage of all the resources that Polytechnic is giving to you. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. I know that sounds really cliche, but this is a very safe place to make mistakes and grow as a student. Hi, I'm Abby and I'm a techie.
So we've started a new video series called Guide to Colleging. We wanted to start a series of brief videos oriented toward, I say brief, we want them to be about a minute or less, so highly oriented toward social media. We want, hopefully, an audience to find them and consume the whole video. If it's only a minute, we're hoping that they'll do that. And we're just pulling clips from videos that we've interviewed over the years of our own students, just giving advice to high school students. So we're calling it the Guide to Colleging. That's our idea, you guys can't have it. And the editor that I use is Final Cut Pro 10 on a Mac. We'll talk a little bit more about software later on. You don't have to have the pro-grade editor to be able to do something like this. But I thought I would just give you a quick demo of putting together a video like this. So someone asked earlier if there were going to be PowerPoint slides, and I thought, how do you do a live video demo with PowerPoint slides? So we'll call this Kimberly. So I already have in my video library here all the clips and such that I need. So we can scrub through it. And
It's your counsel.
Okay, that's great. When you're not studying or doing a student org kind of thing, what do you like to do around competition?
I got to find the specific spot that I wanted here.
You can come here and kind of explore.
That's it. Now, did you all understand that? Okay.
Before I started college, I wish I would have known that I can be more flexible with anything. So being more flexible and dynamic with my schedule, my studies, with what I'm interested in. You don't have to know exactly what you want to do. You can come here and kind of explore and figure it out. And I'm glad that the Polytechnic has those opportunities and I'm able to explore and kind of get out of my comfort zone and sort of become a more open person.
Okay, so I'm just scrubbing the video, setting an in and an out point. And I'm going to drag this to the timeline. And let's see, that was... Okay, and then there was another question she answered.
For your location? The very last, I'll check my cheat sheet that I've got to take here, make sure I have everything I want to. I think so. So the very last thing is, you know, I take t-shirts.
Oh, a little bit further back.
My go to grad school, mostly about that. High school, we were just kind of sitting and listening.
This is it.
Okay, so I would say to a high school student coming here, get ready to get really hands-on. It's not going to be like high school where you're just kind of sitting and listening. You're going to get to do a lot of projects and work on teams, and that's something that's been really important to me and has really prepared me for my internships and my future in the workforce. So, force.
Okay, there's a second clip. There's one more, which is very quick at the very end.
Hi, I'm Kim.
That's it.
Hi, I'm Kim, and I'm a techie.
Okay. So, as you can see, I'm just scrubbing the video. This is the part of video editing that can be tedious. The more material you have, the longer it takes to scrub through it and find those exact bits that you want and dump them on the timeline. So these are the basic three pieces that are going to make up the bulk of the content of the new video. I have my open and close for this video already assembled. So let me just grab that and copy it out of a different project. Rather than have you guys sit through my doing all of that manually, let's copy that. Oops. Let's go back in here, go back to the beginning and paste it there. And then let's go to the end. And again, I have the open and close already prepared. Oops, that's not the right version. This is the right version. Oh, I need a title. We'll grab that. Okay, open and close wide. Come in here and put that at, put that at the end. Okay, let's make this view a bit bigger. So here's the basics of my project. If we play it from the beginning, it's going to need a little bit of cleanup. So I'd like to point out, by the way, that the fonts that you see here, these are out of the Purdue brand guide, the font palette. So that one, I believe, is Champion in a middleweight, give or take. Oh, I need to edit my title here. De Silva. And she is in... We'll center that. Okay, once again, the titles that I like to use, titles that have some consistency with Purdue brand. So once again, these are Purdue fonts. In this case, it is, I'm drawing a blank. What's the one in our palette that starts with an M? Myriad. Myriad Pro. This is Myriad Pro, and I believe on the right side it's Myriad Pro condensed. And a little, obviously it's in all caps and a little bit smaller of a font size. So there's some visual variety. And I just put a gold bar, that's Purdue's gold, there in the middle. Let's see, I still need to add some music. I have a music track. We use a service called Audio Blocks, which is one of the services that offers thousands of royalty-free music and audio clips and such. I believe it costs about $150 a year, but then once you pay for the membership, then you can use any audio from there royalty-free in any project. It is not a good idea to just grab your favorite pop music or anything that's on the radio because we don't have the license for that. And technically, if you use that in your videos, then the copyright holder, if they were to find it, they could demand for you to take it down. That would be the very least that they would do. It's unlikely, I think, that they would sue Purdue for copyright infringement. They would probably just demand that you take it down. Actually, on occasion, when I use a track from Audio Blocks and upload it to YouTube, YouTube clearly has software which will check the audio automatically against copyright. And occasionally the person who, or firm who sold that audio to Audio Blocks or licensed it to Audio Blocks, they still have it out there available somewhere else. And so I've gotten an automated copyright claim from YouTube. It doesn't take the video down, but then there's just a YouTube form to fill out, and I say, yes, I'm properly licensed, and then the copyright claim goes away. But anyway, using some kind of an audio service to get licensed royalty-free music is a good thing. Okay, this track is a little bit longer than I need it to be, so I'm going to shorten it at the beginning. All All right, that ends about when I want it to, more or less. All right, let's play this.
Before I started college, I wish I would have known that
What am I doing wrong? Audio levels. It's too loud. The music's too loud. So this is something that I encourage everybody to do. If you're going to mix multiple sources, if you're just doing a live mic, then okay, you're set. You still need to check that. But we need to have the levels set appropriately. So I'm going to go into my timeline here and duck this down from 0 decibels down to, I'm going to try about minus 12.
studies with what I'm interested in.
Maybe a little bit less. Actually, the other thing I want to encourage you to do is check the audio levels carefully of whatever is most important. So Kimberly is wearing a wired mic similar to what I am. And so I get very clean audio recorded. We'll talk about gear, by the way, in a few minutes. But that doesn't mean that I can't still boost her levels. So I have, as you see over on the very right side, lower right of the screen, when I'm scrubbing through the track, you'll see audio meters bouncing. I don't know if you can see on your screen, but there's a tick right here that's second from the top that says 0. I want to keep the audio meters bouncing through the whole project, bouncing as close to 0 with the main audio track as I can, but never going above. That way I make sure I don't get any distortion, and when I put out the video, the levels will be about right for what you expect when you hear this thing online. Sometimes people will post videos where the audio is not well mixed, so maybe the music is too loud, you can't hear the person talking, or maybe the overall volume of the whole video is too low. You've probably played a video where you have to turn up your speakers just to be able to hear the regular dialogue. How many people have experienced that? And then, of course, you go to play the next video and you blast yourself out because that one is at a normal level. So I'm actually going to boost Kim's track by about 4 decibels.
You don't have to know exactly what you want to do.
Look at those meters. Watch them bounce.
Kind of explore and figure it out. And I'm glad that the Polytechnic has those opportunities, and I was able to explore and kind of get out of my comfort zone.
So they're bouncing pretty close to 0, but not going above. So I like to really fine-tune the audio. Let me tell you about my video editing strategy, just kind of from start to finish. So you've witnessed just a little bit of that. My strategy tends to be get all of the visuals done. Get everything that you need for the project. If there's graphics, if there's B-roll, if you're cutting away from the person talking to show something else, that's B-roll. If there's special effects, anything that is visual, I try to get that all on the timeline and get it organized and more or less get it done and as polished as I can think. Then I will start paying attention to the audio. So add my music, if there's any effects to add or other audio sources. Sometimes B-roll will have audio, like maybe a student or a faculty member is talking about something they do in a laboratory, and then you cut away to B-roll showing them do things in the laboratory. Maybe you want a little bit of sound from that B-roll, but not all of it, so I might duck the sound from the B-roll way down low, but leave it perceptible, while still making sure that what they're saying is the most audible. So after I've finalized all the video, then I like to go through and get all the audio set. And any video, no matter how long it is, I end up playing it from start to end many, many times. So when I'm finalizing that video, I'm playing it from the beginning to end, watching the video only. I'm not even paying attention to the audio. I'm just making sure what details can I improve. Make sure the video is really set. Then, after I've edited the audio, getting the levels just right, sometimes you have to boost just part of a track. Some people have a speaking voice where they'll start a sentence loud and then naturally kind of drop off as they get toward the end of the sentence, right? So, if you like what they're saying, I may need to boost the audio of that part of the clip toward the end of their sentence so that it's a more or less as even as I can make it. So then I will end up, when I think I've finalized the audio, I will play the video from start to end and I will not watch the visual portion. I will keep my eyes glued to those audio meters and make sure that it's never bouncing above 0. If it did bounce, let me show you on this software, if I boost the audio too much here.
And I'm glad that the Polytechnic has those opportunities.
You see that the meters bounce into the red. Speaking of being wired for sound. the meters bounce into the red, and at least in Final Cut Pro, it puts some red lights up there at the top to tell you, hey, there was a problem. So I'm going to go through and listen to my whole track and make sure that my audio is good. Transitions, by the way, I didn't talk about transitions. Let me just add a couple of cross dissolves here. Sometimes in between clips of the same person talking, it's very popular today just to do a straight jump cut, meaning no dissolve or no transition at all. I still like to use a dissolve, but I just like to do it with a few frames. So I'm going to set this dissolve, instead of being 1 second long, I'm going to make it just 5 frames long. So that is 1/6 of a second. So watch in a couple seconds here, you'll see that her cut will jump, but there'll be a video transition.
So I would say...
There it was.
Come in here, get ready.
Very subtle. That's my preference, but do what you like. A longer dissolve to go from her at the end. Let me show you another common technique. There, in video editing, there's what's called J cuts and L cuts. You've probably seen videos, and whether you notice it consciously or not, a speaker might start talking before you see them on screen. There's something else on screen, and you hear someone talking, and then the editor goes a second or a few seconds later, and you see the talking head. You've all seen that. That's called a J cut. Here we go. Letter J. If you imagine that my thumb is the audio, the J cut is when the audio from that video starts before the video itself. The reverse of that is if somebody's audio keeps going after their face disappears from the screen. Maybe now you've transitioned into that B-roll of what they're doing in a laboratory or doing something on campus. That's an L cut, the opposite end. So I can do that here by expanding the audio. Make my view a little bit bigger here. And grab this handle. Notice that my timeline is sliding. It's covering up part of the main video track here, but the audio track down here was staying stationary. So the audio remains synced with the video, but do you see what's happening? So there's my J. Here's the tail end of the J. So now if I start at the beginning.
Before I started college, I wish I would have known that...
Oops, I forgot to move my... Final Cut Pro has a magnetic timeline, but certain things don't move. In that case, my lower third didn't move.
Before I started college, I wish I would have known that I can be more flexible with...
So you get the idea. Okay. Once you've got your video finalized and your audio finalized, there's a lot more fine-tuning that I would do. Do you guys ever watch cooking shows on TV? Right? And you know that, okay, they make this fantastic looking recipe and they magically have all the different ingredients cut up in little jars for them. I wish it worked that way in my own kitchen. And then they say, okay, now put this in the oven for 25 minutes at 375. And then they pull out the finished plate and say, but I have one done right here so that we can try it and you can see how to serve it. That's what I'm going to do today with the video. There's more fine-tuning that I would do with the audio and a couple of the video clips here. But let me show you the finished product. Let's go full screen with this.
Before I started college, I wish I would have known that you don't have to know exactly what you want to do. Get ready to get really hands-on. It's not going to be like high school where you're just kind of sitting and listening. You're going to get to do a lot of projects and work on teams, and that's something that's been really important to me and has really prepared me for like my internships and my future in the workforce. Before I started college, I wish I would have known that I can be more flexible with anything. So being more flexible and dynamic with my schedule, with my studies, with what I'm interested in. You don't have to know exactly what you want to do. You can come here and kind of explore and figure it out. And I'm glad that the Polytechnic has those opportunities and I was able to explore and kind of get out of my comfort zone and sort of become a more open person. Hi, I'm Kim and I'm a techie.
So there's a few more details in the finished version than you saw me doing in the editing here, but let me show you a couple of those details. For example, there's a section, you guys saw when I was editing, I just started right here on the title sequence. But something that I've decided to do as we go forward with this new Guide to Colleging series that we're doing is, so long as I can still fit all the content that I want under a minute, then I'd like to add a teaser at the beginning. My thinking is that when we post this on social media, hopefully if they're listening with audio on and they're scrolling past it in their timeline, hopefully some of the best content of the video, I'll put that up at the very beginning as a teaser. Hopefully that will catch their attention and say, oh, I guess I want to watch this video. So that's why I added the teaser at the beginning.
Before I started college, I wish I would have known that you don't have to know exactly what
Branding is important, so we have our co-brand logo here.
you want to do.
Title sequence, as you've seen.
Get ready to get really hands-on. It's not going to...
Did you notice another J cut there with the audio? So before Kim comes back on screen, basically I want these titles to appear with just music, but I just give, there's only about 3 words there. I think it's a fraction of a second is enough for people to read it and not have their attention divided, but that's an artistic choice you can make. But notice when Kim's audio starts with the J cut, her audio will start before she comes on screen.
Get ready to get really hands-on.
Right there.
It's not going to be like high school.
There's the title, her lower third with her name and what her major is.
A lot of projects and work on teams, and that's something that's been really important to me and has really...
And I've added a bug. Network logos that you see on television, why not do the same thing with your own videos with Purdue branding? So if somebody happens to catch this video halfway through, for some reason, keep our branding on the screen. So I like to do our co-brand here in a monocolor. So most of the time I do white. On occasion, if it's a really bright background, occasionally I will use a bug that's black. I also prefer, it's kind of hard to tell on this screen. I don't know if I can scrub it to see a better spot. Actually, maybe right there. So I made this video, or this graphic in Photoshop. I just opened up a standard 1920 by 1080 screen with a transparent background, got our co-brand and put it down to size, give it a little bit of space in from the corners. And then I added a layer style, an outer glow with a little bit of a Gaussian blur in black, but just a little bit, just enough so that the letters will distinguish themselves from the background. Now, in a video like this, where I'm not really changing backgrounds very much, I probably could get away without doing that. But if you're cutting between light and dark scenes, if you were to, this is the white logo, if you were to cut to a very bright scene, the logo might disappear. If you're using the color version, where the university's in gold, then what might happen is the viewer might see just the line in university. The word Purdue and your unit might disappear. And that bothers me when only portions of it are visible. So to me, the way to do that, the way to fix that is to put an outer glow on that layer when you're making the graphic. Let me scrub backwards a little bit. You'll see I did the same thing here on, oops, stop playing. I did the same thing here with my lower third. This is maybe a little bit thicker than I needed it to be, but most of the time I found that I like using white titles with a black outer glow. On occasion I will do the reverse. I'll do black with a white outer glow or something subtle. And I try to spend time and sweat the details about what is the least amount of glow that I can use before it gets to be too obtrusive. What other details can I show you? By the way, I'll tell you an inside secret from the Polytechnic. So as you guys may remember, if you've been on campus for some years, we changed our college's name 4 years ago. We were the College of Technology. Ever since then, we've had to fight, especially our marketing communication team, we've had to fight the branding problem. We've been getting, and we get these questions less often than we used to, but it used to be, okay, is the Polytechnic, is that at Purdue University? Is it the same thing? It's like, yeah, we're one of the colleges. We're one of the 10 academic colleges. So we have found that we want to use as much generic Purdue imagery in our marketing materials as we can, just to subtly reinforce that, hey, we are part of Purdue University. I figure it's probably going to take 8 or 10 years before our name is really widespread and out there. So we just did this little bit here with the students running past the Gateway Arch. We started out as a photo shoot. We wanted to get our students doing some still photos for print pieces with the arch in the background, but I was really glad that I took my video camera along, because once we took our still photos, I said, hey, would you guys mind just wandering around, and hey, maybe would you run toward the sign? And this has just become fantastic imagery for us. A little bit of slow-mo there. Okay. Questions so far? Okay, very good. I would like to show you a little bit of my technique for now. So this is a regular full screen video, 1920 by 1080 high definition video. Obviously it's meant to fit the full frame of a regular video screen. But as you know, Instagram prefers square. Now, Instagram did make a change a couple years ago where it used to be that everything had to be square, but then they started allowing you to put in widescreen things, and they just shrink it down in the frame inside the Instagram timeline. So I can put a full width video into Instagram and it'll play, but the reason that we still prefer to do everything square is if you go to my college's homepage, then we have a feed from some of our social media channels on the page. When everything finishes loading, there it is. This is a feed from our Instagram. This is a feed from Twitter over here. If I keep everything that we put on our Instagram channel square, then it really lines up most neatly here. So I have learned a couple of tricks for taking videos and making sure everything fits. So let me try to show you a little bit of that. I went into Photoshop and made myself a mask. Hard to tell when you see it here, but let me just drag this onto the timeline. So, here we go. I made a mask that is exactly the centermost square of a high definition frame. I did the math and figured out how many pixels in from the left and right, and then just made boxes and filled them with black. The center part is transparent. So now I put this graphic into my library and my video editor, and I can just drop this as the top layer of my video and see what fits. Okay. So
1080 by 1080 then?
the centermost part is 1080 by 1080, yes. So if you do the math, it's something like 450 pixels in from the left, and then 1,500 or 1,600 some pixels from the right. I drew a ruler, whatever they call it, a guideline in Photoshop. Tell you what, I can share these graphics with you. There's nothing proprietary about this if you want to see the mask. So in order to make the square version, firstly I'm going to make a copy of my project so that I've saved the work that I've already done. I'm not going to bother doing that for you guys now, but ordinarily that's what I would do. Now I need to go in and edit some things here. So let me go down to this video, and let's just grab this frame and slide it over. That's probably a good part there. I need to grab this title. Oops, hang on, I need to say done up there. I need to grab this title and put it in frame. Actually, I think what I did for these was, oops. I may have raised this up a bit so that this one could slide underneath it a bit.
Before I started college, I wish I would have known that.
I'm going to fine-tune the placement of those titles. All right, got to check Kim's title. She fits. Actually, going to take this bar, this mask, and put it all the way across my timeline. I need to raise it up a bit so that it's the top layer. Now, sometimes with the interviewee, if my camera was not fully centered on the person, and sometimes for artistic reasons, based on the background, I might have them a little bit off center. Well, if that doesn't look right, then I might need to go in there and move the video frame a bit one direction or another. Oops. For example, if I wanted to center her, I could just move her there. You get the idea? So I need to click done. So then I can export that. When you export it, it's still going to make you a full frame video. I'm going to show you a trick in a minute to how to have the resulting video file itself be square rather than be full frame with black bars down the sides. Same technique, and this is my newest trick. We've decided we want to start posting some Instagram stories. So Instagram posts, we like the square as I've explained, whether they're for photographs or videos. Instagram stories are meant to be consumed in portrait mode or handheld on your phone so that it's much narrower through the middle. So I had to go online and do some research, and I did exactly the same thing, and I made a mask. Let me just drag this and replace that graphic there, replace and retime. Scroll back to the beginning. There we go. So what Instagram wants for portrait mode is just flipping the regular high definition landscape of 1920 by 1080. They flipped that to 1080 by 1920. Now, my video was shot in 1920 by 1080. Technically speaking, the video is not high resolution enough in order to just flip that on end. But that's okay. I figure most people are going to be consuming a video like this on very small screens, and they're not going to notice that I have to shrink the video resolution to fit in there. But this, to fit everything you want in that much space, is going to take a bit more massaging. So, okay, for example, with this one, I've got, on the full frame, I'm showing about 3 people in that video. Which one do I want to show? Well, she has a nice bright smile, so let's put her in the middle. I'm going to have to massage this. I keep forgetting to click done. I'm going to have to massage this text to be a single line and probably even make it, well, it looks like the font size might fit. I'm going to have to massage that graphic, put a couple of carriage returns in there. And at the end, I'm going to have to massage the graphics there to take our co-brand and make it fit within the frame and so on. But you see the technique. I found the best way to do this is to take these masks, as I call them, and put them on my full frame and then shrink to fit, making copies of my video project as we go. So in Final Cut Pro, when you're done editing everything, you're going to go to the File menu and hit Share, and it is possible to program Final Cut Pro to upload directly to social media. I've learned that I prefer not to do that because it doesn't always get the compression level for the video that I want. In other words, it might compress it too much, and the resulting video that's online looks grainy. The fonts may not be readable. There's just too much grain. I want them to still be high def, but smaller. So what I like to do is export it to a master file. Fine. And you see there's all kinds of settings here. These are compression rates. The ones toward the top tend to be the lowest compression rate. So if you're doing broadcast quality audio, if you film this with a broadcast quality camera, it gets a very high bit rate. It records it with the best possible fidelity. You can export it and retain all of that fidelity. These are basically varying levels of compression. But Apple ProRes 422 is a middle of the road, high quality compression ratio. I really don't care. I want to export it at something high quality. I don't need it to be the absolute highest quality. But I also don't want to use one of the lower quality ones here in Final Cut. I prefer to use a different program for doing my compression. There is an extra cost program from Apple called, I think it's called Apple Compressor, which will build some of the stuff I'm doing with a freebie third-party program. We'll build it in here, but I'm just showing you my workflow. So I will export this in Apple ProRes 422. If you can see that there, it actually says it wants to make this into a 1.3 gigabyte file. That's just about a minute of video, but it's over a gigabyte. That's pretty big. That would be too big to to be able to put on a thumb drive conveniently or transfer to other people. And if I were to upload this video, the 1.3 gig version to YouTube, it's just going to dumb it down anyway. So I prefer to handle the compression myself. I'm not going to take the time to do the export here, because that might take, the faster your computer is, the less time that process takes. But this is where I'm the chef on a TV cooking show, and I pull out the already finished lasagna right from the oven.
Did you set the screen size then? I didn't see you set your...
I'll come to that in a moment. So the program I wanted to show you is called HandBrake. HandBrake. Write down handbrake.fr. I think FR is for France. I'm guessing HandBrake is an open source. It's a freebie program available for Mac and Windows. Handbrake.fr is where you go to download it. This is a fantastic and completely free video compression program. So you can use this. I have had great results with it. I've actually sometimes found that this gives me better resulting videos than I've tried using Adobe, what is it called? Adobe, anybody remember the name of the Adobe compression program that comes as part of the Creative Suite? Encoder. I've used Encoder to try doing these things, and it's a huge program, but sometimes I've actually found that HandBrake gives me better results. So go figure. So a quick example of using HandBrake, I'm going to call up my source video. Final Cut Pro will export it into a .mov, which is a native QuickTime file. I'm going to open this. What I want HandBrake to do is to compress this into a .mp4 file. MP4 tends to be very universal these days. It can play on Mac and PC. You can copy the video file over to your phone and it's going to play there. If you want to upload it to YouTube or Insta or Twitter, they're going to accept MP4s just fine. So I like to export this. I have made some presets. So 1080p MP4. What I do is I load up the file, I click Add to Queue. A file already exists, I've already done this, but I would say OK, and then click Start. And it's gonna, this is a minute video, so it's only gonna take about a minute or two to do that compression and give me the resulting MP4 file. So the original, in this particular case, the original file was 1.23 gigabytes. The compressed file is 47.8 megabytes. By comparison, it's tiny. But if we play this, even if I go full screen, pay particular attention anytime you see text on the screen that I've generated.
Before I started college, I wish I would have known that you don't have to know exactly what you want to do.
Still crisp.
Get ready.
Still crisp.
Hands-on. It's not going to be like high school.
Still crisp.
Listening. You're going to get to do a lot.
That's all generated text.
And that's something that's been really important.
When the bug shows up, that's a graphic, but the graphic renders still pretty crisp. So I like to make sure that I do the compression myself and make sure that it retains that crispness. This is where it was looking at our co-brand logo, where I was using Adobe Encoder and trying to set it for what looked to me like the best possible settings, and it still would gum up the look of this graphic. Now this is pretty small and by comparison fairly low res, and we're looking at it on a giant screen. But I would look at the E in Polytechnic or maybe the E in University, and it would fuzz them out. And I said, all right, I got to go back to trying HandBrake. Now, you asked about how do I get the right screen sizes for square and portrait mode for Insta. I have created, let's see. Should I just quit? Oh, here we go. Add to queue. Actually, it doesn't matter. Let's open source. There we go. So here is my original exported square movie. Actually, let me just show you that.
So wait, where are we? Are we in HandBrake or Final Cut?
HandBrake, sorry. Firstly, here is the video that I exported from Final Cut.
Before I started college.
The square video, it still has the black bars. You know, it's kind of hard to see when I have that open without a white screen underneath it. Dark mode is in my way right now. Okay, can you see that a little bit better? I'm just trying to demonstrate to you that, let me shrink that down a bit.
Before I start,
It's still, at the moment, the square video that I made is still a full frame. It just has black bars up the side. Okay, so now let me go back into HandBrake. And I have created a preset in HandBrake. Let's open up the source square. Let me see if I can show you the actual settings. I've created a preset so that I don't have to do this every time. All right, can you read this here? So, storage size is 1080 by 1080, so that's square. And I have to go over here to cropping and make it a custom crop. On the left, it's cropped at 420. On the right, it's cropped at 420, but 0 and 0 on the others. Okay, so once again, for square, the storage size is 1080 by 1080. For cropping, I have to set it to custom, 420 on the left and 420 on the right. Okay, so again, I would add this to the queue, and let's go back to let's close this. Actually, open file. Square MP4. So now I have the video file itself is natively square
before I started college, I wish I would have known that
with no black bars on either side. So that way, when I can transfer this file to Instagram, and I don't have to worry about centering it. On Instagram, if you upload a video that's wider than square, you can actually drag it back and forth to the right and set your own centering, but I want it to be all, I don't want any variables there. The same process is true for doing that portrait mode. Once I have the final video, let me pull up my portrait mode preset. So again, this is for doing Instagram stories. So the storage size is 608 by 1080. Again, the storage size for portrait mode, for stories, for Instagram stories, storage size is 608 by 1080. And then the cropping, the custom cropping is does that say 656? Yes, it does. 656 on the left and right. And when you do all of that, let's open up that version. Portrait MP4. So now here is my story, ready for Instagram stories.
before I started college, I wish I would have known that you don't have to know exactly what you want to do. Get ready to get really hands-on. It's not going to be like high school where you're just kind of...
And you get the idea. Okay, questions at this point? Let me tell you a couple of other things. Number one, closed captioning. Very important for accessibility reasons. My favorite way to deal with closed captioning is to upload my finished video to YouTube. Wait an hour or so, sometimes it's less, depends on the length of the video. And then YouTube will automatically create a set of closed captions. Usually they're full of a lot of errors, and you can't believe what sometimes words it uses differently for Polytechnic. So it's full of errors. The captions don't come on and off the screen as I want, but sometimes I find that letting it do an automatic pass first and then going in and editing them can be a little bit easier. I don't want to take up time showing you the closed caption editor, but I will go in. Yes, question?
So when you do that, do you just put it up there as unlisted, and then will it still do that if it's not a public video?
It will still do that if it's not public. Even if you put it as unlisted, it'll still check music for copyright. But yes, it will automatically do that. So actually, let me just call up one of these videos. You saw this video earlier. Let me click CC.
All the professors we have are so great. They're always so open and interested in all of the things that you're doing and making sure that they're mentoring you throughout the different processes, which is great for me because I didn't.
So you get the idea, closed captions. I like using YouTube because it gives me a leg up. It does some of the work for me, and then I can just fix the typos. I can set line breaks different. I can fix the timing. It doesn't get the automatic timing right, but I'm very precise with my timing, as you can see here. then you can actually export from YouTube. You can export the captions. You can download them in the same place where you edit the captions. You can download them there's 4 or 5 different caption formats. The one that I use is .srt. .srt. I don't know what that stands for, but you can download them from there. And then if you want to upload this video natively to Facebook, Facebook will let you import an SRT file. So when we put our videos in social, particularly for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, we like to upload them natively to that service rather than just posting a link that points off to the YouTube video. Because the algorithms on those sites, they like to present content which they feel is more relevant and more local. So if you've uploaded the content there, the algorithm might put that in front of more people's eyes if they have the video as opposed to just a link that points off of their site. So when I upload that video to Facebook, now that I've downloaded a copy of the SRT file, I can upload that in the same screen where you're uploading the video and setting the title and description and so forth. There's an option for uploading a captions file. Further, when you upload a captions file to Facebook, if somebody is on their phone and scrolling past and your video is playing and they have the sound for videos turned off, it will automatically play the captions if it has them. So if you try that next time you're scrolling through Facebook on your phone. If the sound for those videos that are scrolling by is turned off, if they have captions, it will put the captions there for you. And then if you turn sound on, the captions disappear and you can listen to the audio. Okay, so that's captions. That is very important to do. On YouTube, when you're on your home page, on your channel's home page, there's just a little detail that video is going to start playing. YouTube will put a little CC icon in a box in your video description if you've given it custom captions. If it just does automatic captions, they don't put the CC there. So if there's a little CC in the description by the video, it means that that channel has taken the time to do custom captions for that particular video. Okay, you guys want to talk about gear for a minute and then I'll wrap up? I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the gear that I have been using. So camera-wise, the camera that I'm recording this presentation on, the particular model is a Canon XA20. This was Canon's entry-level professional quality regular video camera. About 5 years ago, this camera was about $2,000. They still have other models. I think you could probably still buy the same model. They still have other models in the line. On up and price goes up. What I wanted 5 years ago when I bought this camera was a professional quality video camera that had optical image stabilization. That means that if I'm handheld, within some reason, it will optically stabilize. The lens moves a little bit in there so that if your hand is jiggly, it will take some of the jiggle out of the final video. You want an optical image stabilizer to be able to do that. There's some cameras that only have digital image stabilization. What that means is they zoom into the video a little bit to throw away the pixels around the edges to try to stabilize that shaking. But it inherently lowers the quality of the video. The other thing I wanted from the camera was the ability to connect professional audio gear. So this camera has this big handle thing up here. This whole part on the top is all about audio connections. So the camera is able to connect 2 professional quality microphones. Now, I have actually a handful of professional quality wired lavalier microphones. This that I'm wearing, by lavalier it means it clips to you, basically. This is a professional quality wired microphone, and it's wired up to plug into one of the 2. Do one of these views have the other side? Oh. This website doesn't want to show. Okay. Anyway, on the opposite side of the camera, there are 2. Okay, now it wants to show me. There are 2 audio jacks to connect professional quality microphones. So far, our office only has wired microphones. 5 years ago, when I had budget to spend on these things, getting wireless microphones were way more expensive for professional quality wireless microphones. The particular wired mics that I use, I think I have a caption here. No, that's not it. Sorry, a tab is what I meant to say. I didn't open a tab. The wired lavalier microphones that I'm using are Audio Technica, that's the brand, Audio Technica. The model is AT899. Audio Technica AT899. They come in a kit. The full kit costs about $270. This is the full kit. So it gives you everything, the cabled part, and then a whole bunch of different ways to clip the mic to clothing or people or whatever. At the time that I was shopping for microphones, I could only afford professional quality wired microphones. Getting professional quality wireless mics costs hundreds of dollars more. I think that now, in 2019, there are more wireless mics that are professional quality on the market. What I would suggest, if you wanted to get a wired mic, assume that this is one of those cases where the more it costs, the more likely it is to be high quality. There are wired mics that they market to consumers, wireless mics that they market to consumers that may only cost 50 bucks or something. But I do not trust the quality of the audio that comes out of them. Furthermore, I want the professional connections with what's called XLR connectors. These are the big audio cables that have the big 3-pin things on the end, not the little single thing like you see on headphones that plug into a mobile phone. I want the professional quality so that I know my audio is good. Again, accessories. The camera, if you buy a professional quality camera, it does not, strangely, come with its own microphone. You have to equip it with a shotgun or directional mic. So that's the thing you usually see sticking out, like my camera here, sticking out of the top of a camera, or here's an example. I bought this Audio Technica AT875R, and it comes with a windscreen, but the picture you see on the screen here is without the windscreen on it. But this is, what does it cost? 170 bucks? Okay, let's say you want to get into doing some professional quality video, but don't have $2,000 plus a microphone to spend. But most of us have a mobile phone made in the last, I would guess the average person has a mobile phone made in the last 3, 4, 5 years. This happens to be the iPhone 10, what do they call it? 10s Max? 10, whatever. This is the big one. But so this is Apple's latest model, but really any phone, any probably medium to upper range phone made in the last 3, 4, 5 years is probably going to be able to shoot high definition video. So if you don't have $2,000 to spend on a camera, you could probably start with your phone. What you might consider doing is buying, actually let me search for this right here on Amazon, get the price too. DJI Osmo Mobile, not Cosmo, there it is. Mobile, there it is. Consider buying, somehow that price doesn't feel like the price that it's supposed to be. Well, let's just, here we go, let's try this. Consider buying a handheld gimbal, is what I was about to say. So this is a little device that you clip your phone into, and as you're moving around, it has a 3-axis gimbal, so it will automatically keep your phone level, even if you're moving the whole thing around in space like this. And that can help you get much smoother video. You still have to think about audio. You could consider looking up, I haven't done this myself, but there are microphones that can plug into your handheld, your mobile phone to get a little bit better audio. Or if you just use the built-in mic, then it's not going to be as close sounding. It might be echoey, there might be a lot more ambient noise. But get something like this, it's only going to cost 150 bucks. And use it with your existing phone, and that is a way to get much more viewable, stabilized video for starters, without having to go to a $2,000 cam. Miscellaneous cables. Oh, video editor software is the last thing. So every Macintosh comes with iMovie at no cost, and you can do nice looking videos even in freebie editors like iMovie. I prefer to use Apple's Pro level software, which is Final Cut Pro 10, that costs 200 bucks. Or I believe the university has a license now for the Adobe Creative Suite. And so that will come with Premiere Pro, which is a great editor. If you happen to be a Mac user, Premiere Pro works fine, but Final Cut is more optimized to the hardware, so Final Cut might give you faster times to export and so forth than Premiere Pro might. I'm a very much Apple guy, so I just always look for the Apple solution. Okay, I think I've used up almost the whole hour. Questions? Any questions before we wrap up, please?
So what's your thoughts on using a DSLR camera for video?
I'm glad you mentioned that. My thoughts are it's a very positive thing. It's all about the lenses. I actually just brought up a still of a video here to show you the video camera that I'm using, the general purpose pro quality video camera. The lens is great, but there's no variability. Everything in focus is going to be in focus, the whole background. You have to use a DSLR with the right kind of a lens to do something like this, which is to get a beautiful shot of the person with a nice soft focus background. It's a cinematic technique. So if you want to use a DSLR, it's all in the lenses. You want to make sure it is a lens that can do automatic focusing during video. You want to make sure that the particular camera, at least if you want to go for high quality, will record at least 1920 by 1080. You don't necessarily need to have a DSLR that can do 4K video for social media, not yet anyway. But we have a DSLR in our office that we use that makes great still shots, but it's an older model. It'll only do 720p video, so that's less than today's full high definition. And furthermore, it's limited. Our old camera that's probably 6 years old, well, it'll do 720p, it'll only record 5 minutes at a time, and then it stops and you have to restart. That's no good for me. So yes, a DSLR is a great option. It's all in the lenses to get the look that you want, and make sure that the lenses can do autofocus during video. Some older DSLRs from, I'm going to say 4 or 5 years ago, might be able to do high def, but they might not have been autofocus. So if your subject is moving while you're videoing, they might go out of focus. Okay, other questions? Okay. I managed to take up just the right amount of time. Thank you for coming, and I hope this was helpful. It's kind of ironic, by the way, that I'm making a very unfancy video with just a still camera to talk about making videos, so this is going to be a very boring looking video. But I will put this as a hidden video that Christy's going to send out to the group. So if you have colleagues who couldn't make it, then I'm sorry, they'll have to watch me on tape, and that's even worse than watching me in person. Thanks very much for coming.